Hi, I'm Andy Call, lead pastor here at Church of the Savior in Cleveland Heights. This is a very anxious time for all of us. If you're not anxious right now, you're probably not really paying attention to what's happening in the world. And I want to talk about that a little bit to you today. This is not an appeal for peace. It's not an appeal for us to just let go of things, because I believe that peace cannot come at the cost of escapism. Peace cannot come at the expense of justice. There is a great deal that is happening in the world right now. There's a great deal that needs to happen in the world. And I don't want us to pretend that it's going to go away or to be satisfied with kind of spiritual platitudes that make us feel good inside while ignoring the realities all around us. But I do want to talk about how we can respond and be aware of what's happening in the world in a healthy way. I want to encourage you to adopt a few practices that you may find helpful. First of all, it's good to be informed about what's happening in the world. So I would suggest that you identify 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 reputable sources of information. Now, that could be a newspaper, it could be a channel on your television that you use to keep up with news, it could be an online resource, but limit yourself to some number of reputable sources, and I mean mainline sources, well-known news outlets. Second would be to set aside use of social media and only do that sparingly. Social media is a great tool for staying up to speed on what's happening in other people's lives. It can be a fun place to play around and just entertain yourself. It can be a place to just vent frustration. But if you're finding yourself getting your information from social media, if you find yourself constantly scrolling through pages and pages of posts on social media, you may be aware of what that's doing to you, but you may not be. It's not a very healthy way to conduct ourselves, particularly when there's so much anxiety and stress in the world right now. So I would just encourage you to limit your social media intake. Do that sparingly, do that in a way that you know you're going to be able to control that. Set a time for yourself, a time limit, or decide what you're going to get from that social media, but don't look to that as your source of information. And then thirdly, and I think this is probably the most important thing, make time in your life to separate from the rest of that, to pray, to be in God's presence. And a very simple exercise can be very helpful. Just breathing and meditating in God's presence. Breathe in God's presence into your heart, into your life. Breathe out the toxicity that comes with the anger and the frustration and the anxiety, everything else that's coming with this time in our lives. Be in God's presence, because as people of faith, we need to be grounded. We need to remember that God is with us and God has this. And unless we have that spiritual grounding, we can't take the actions that we're going to need to engage the world in a meaningful and constructive way. So I just want to encourage you in the midst of all this, don't escape from it. I don't want you to look away, because I think what's happening right now in our country needs our full attention. We need to be mindful of the things that are important to us and hold fast to the ideals of truth and justice and equity and fairness and our sacred bonds to one another. But I also want us to do that in a way that is healthy, that doesn't contribute more to the anxiety we're all feeling. So please receive this encouragement from me today. Know that you are all in my prayers, and I invite you to pray with me for our nation and for the people in it, that we would find our way forward into a healthier, happier version of the world as Jesus imagined it, as we hold fast in our faith. So be healthy, be happy, be vigilant, and be well. May God bless you today.